Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. You know, I've been bad lately. I've been eating too much bread. So I made a low-carb, gluten-free appetizer that I actually had as a main course. This is fried goat cheese. It is so yummy and full of flavor, you won't even notice that it's low-carb. Here are the ingredients. They're also in the info section. And hey, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you click the little bell at the top right, you'll get a notice when I post new videos about twice a week. Now let's get cooking. Let's talk a little about the ingredients. This is rendered leaf fat or lard. It was given to me to try out, and so I'm going to try it out. This is my homemade goat cheese. If you buy goat cheese, you get it in a little round package. This is about 12.5 ounces of goat cheese. I've got 2 eggs. This is about a 3.5 ounce pack of fried pork skins, meat skins, pork rinds, chicharrones, whatever you want to call them. And to keep the carbs low, I'm using organic coconut flour. If your goal is just gluten-free cooking, you can use cornstarch. We'll talk about seasoning a little. Besides the salt and pepper, I have a little cumin and I have some dried chives. You can play with that profile. You can even add some Splenda to make them sweet. So because we're working with homemade goat cheese here, I'm going to portion this out in about 1 ounce portions, and I'm using a little scoop for that. You can use a teaspoonful if you want to. If you're using goat cheese from the store, it's going to come in a little log, and you can just slice it into as many pieces as you want. Now, I'm making these about 1 ounce. Usually when you buy goat cheese in the store, it comes in a 4-ounce package. So you can just make everything less and fry just a few, even make them a little thinner. But I'm going to make these into balls, and I'm going to form them by hand to smooth them out. And I just dampen my hands and roll them around in a ball. You can do it in square slices if you want to. You can leave them in balls. I'll flatten this out in a little bit. If you're going to deep fry them, you can just leave them in the round balls. So when I get these formed, I'm going to put them in the freezer for about 15 minutes while I get everything else ready. It'll make them easier to handle. So these are meat skins. They're plain ones. You can get them flavored up if you want to. I just like plain, and I'll make my own flavor. Just going to dump them right here into my food processor. By the way, if you like meat skins and you know they're 0 carbs, you can do a lot of things with them if you're eating low carb. But if they get a little bit old, they get very chewy, and they're still okay for this. And you know, they really add a lot of flavor to foods. When you're eating low carb, you're really looking for that little bit of extra flavor. So I'm just going to crunch these up, grind them pretty small. I don't think you can over grind them. There will still be a few little tiny chunks in there that you can take out, or I just kind of work around them. But blend it pretty well. And if you don't have a food processor, you know, you can do this by putting them in a heavy plastic bag and beating on them. You can break them up, but it's just easier in a food processor. You can see there are still a few chunks in there. You can just go through with your fingers and sort of sift those out. There's nothing wrong with them. It just will make not as pretty a finished product. But you see, this is what we're looking for. Pretty fine. And those will be wonderful. Now, I like to add my seasoning to my eggs instead of the pork rinds or the flour, just because it gives it a prettier color. I'm going to add some salt. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoonful. The pork rinds are salty. I salted the cheese when I made it. Don't overdo the salt. You can always add some, can't take it out. Then I'm going to add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of cumin. And I like cumin in dishes like this because it adds a richness to the flavor. It doesn't change the flavor a lot, just makes it very rich. And it complements almost any meat. Then I'm going to, I got a brand new pepper mill here. I'm going to grind in a little pepper when I figure out how to use this. You know, you could also use just a little bit of cayenne or red pepper flakes. I really like those. Not cayenne, the red pepper flakes. And then I'm going to put in just a generous shake or two of dried chives. Fresh chives, fresh parsley would be good. Be sure to chop them up very, very fine. And I'm going to mix this together. I added 1 tablespoonful of water, by the way, to make an egg wash. And just mix those, and we're going to set them aside for a couple of minutes to let the chives rehydrate. And then I'm going to get the flour. Now, I'm using coconut flour because it's approved for keto diets, low-carb diets. If all you want to do is avoid gluten, you can use cornstarch. The only purpose of the coconut flour or cornstarch here is to hold the egg to the cheese. So here's my goat cheese. It's been in the freezer for about 15 minutes, and we're going to start breading. Now I've set up a breading station here, and I'm going to shape the little goat cheese balls as I work. You can use a fork for this, or you can use the wet hand, dry hand, and I'll show you that. The wet hand, dry hand method, where you put only one hand in the dry ingredients and the other hand in the wet ingredients, so you get less of a mess. And yes, you can wear gloves if you want to do this. I'm just cooking for myself. I'm not using gloves. My hands are clean. So into the coconut flour, and then into the egg, and you can see that I just flattened out the little ball of cheese, and then with my left hand, my wet hand, I'm going to move that over into the ground up meat skins and just press it down in there. And I didn't just dip it in the flour. I sort of mashed the flour into the cheese a little bit to make a good coating. And I'm doing the same thing here with the meat skins. And you can shape these and make them look more uniform as you go if you want to. I've got one done there. I've got a pie plate back there that I'm putting them in. So I'm going to show you another one, and you'll see I'm really shaping that and pressing the flour into it. And this is a 1/2 cup of flour, and I can add more flour if I need to. I probably won't. And then into the egg, and use my wet hand and roll it around and around in there. And it doesn't stick easily. You may have to turn it over a couple of times. Something about the surface tension with the coconut flour. The egg doesn't stick on your first dip. And now into the meat skins. And you can see I've got some little pieces there that didn't get ground up really well. I'm just moving them out of the way. So there you go. Really coat it well. Then we'll set it to the side. I'm going to do all of these, and then I'll come back. All done. Now, they didn't all fit in my pie plate here, so I've left 2 of them here in the meat skin crumbs. And I'm going to show you what I have left. I have that much flour left from a 1/2 cup and that much egg. So if you're making a smaller batch, you can reduce accordingly. Now I'm going to meet you at the stove. I've set up my rack on the stove with a paper towel under a rack. This is my BS&R 8-inch skillet. I'm using it so I won't use so much lard. I only want to use a 1/2 cup because I'm saving a 1/2 cup for pie crust. So we're going to test it by dropping in a few breadcrumbs. I have the heat set on 3 out of 9 because I don't want this to be too hot. I may turn it up just a little as I go along. But if you do this as if you were, say, frying chicken, you're just going to make them ugly and burnt. So low temperature. See the gentle sizzle? Now I have to tell you, I'm going to go ahead and put these in. I have to tell you, there are 1,000 recipes for this on the internet, and most of them use a higher heat. See that little gentle sizzle we've got there? And they only cook it for about 30 seconds. I'm going to cook these about 2 minutes on a very slow, low heat. because, number one, the goat cheese is not going to melt and come out because it's goat cheese. I'm going to flip this one. And number two, the meat skins will get really brown and ugly, and I like them light and crispy. So you can cook them hot and fast if you want to. I like them slow and low. I just like the results better. So here's my 2-fork method for turning these, because you want to be kind of gentle with them, and it's kind of a small pan. So this is how I turn things when I want them to stay together. You just put them in, let them stay about 45 seconds to a minute on one side, then flip them over, let them cook for about a minute on the other side, and then if you want to, you can flip them again and brown off the first side a little bit. This is just how I like them, and I really think you'll like them better this way. And the appearance is also the reason that I put the seasonings in the eggs instead of in the meat skins or the flour. It just looks prettier. And I'm a firm believer that you eat with your eyes and your nose before you eat with your mouth. So I'm going to take this one out. It's brown enough. You can brown it a little bit more as long as you stay on this nice slow heat. You are not going to burn them. And I'm going to let you listen to the sizzle. See that nice slow sizzle? Hear it? That's how you know it's on the right temp. So I've plated this up with a little marinara. You can use any kind of sauce you like. I'm going to dig in. I want you to listen to the crunch. Yeah, that's what you want. You don't have to use a knife and fork. You can just dip them into the sauce. You know, these are very versatile. They work as a substitute for hash browns with breakfast if you're on low carb and you can't have potatoes. They work with some jelly. Marinara sauce is good. A ranch dressing is good. Put it on top of your salad. You can make them smaller. Put them on top of a salad. Serve it with your favorite dressing. They are so yummy. I'm going to put a link to my goat cheese video at the end of this one, just in case you want to try it. And tonight, these are not an appetizer. They are my main course. I hope you try these, and I hope you like them as much as I do. And I hope to see you again tomorrow.